fascinating. And of course, here in the Appalachian area where you have high mountains and high points that can retransmit. Hi everyone, this is Greg K4HSM and I'm back with another video. I'm surprisingly not up on the Parkway doing Simplex Saturday or Parks on the Air this time. I am going to do a discussion on Meshtastic and Meshcore. So for those who are familiar with it, you can skip ahead. But for those who are not, we'll try and give a little tutorial real quick. But Meshtastic and Meshcore both. They're similar in that they use 900 megahertz frequencies. You pretty much need a device like one of these or one of these to get on to the mesh network. And some of them, they have this what looks like a BlackBerry style device that comes all encompassing. You can text on it and you can use it independent of your cell phone. Others, you would use a smartphone app to get on and connect with these devices using Bluetooth, and then you can go out and communicate off the grid. So in the world of Meshtastic, pretty much every device acts as a repeater, and it goes point to point to point. You can put into the app how many hops that your device would retransmit out. So if you send a message out that said hello world and you set it for 7 hops, then it'll go and find another device in the nearby vicinity, and then it will receive that. It will send it out again for a second time, and then the devices that receive that, they get the number of hops that it has taken, how many hops it has to go, and it'll either stop at that point or it'll retransmit it if there are more hops remaining. So it's point to point to point, and using a mesh network in order to communicate. So I can send out a hello message and it can go just within a few hundred yards, or it can go for several miles. It can go throughout the region. Now Meshcore uses those same principles, only it's a little more structured. You can actually set paths to it, like in the APRS or packet world. You can say, okay, I want to go to this device that I know I can hear, and then I want to go to this device, this device, this device to send out my messages. Or you can just simply say, program it for however many hops. And then there are devices that can receive it, but not necessarily repeat it like you would in the Meshtastic world. If there is a device that is set up like a repeater, then it will repeat it if there are more hops to go. Some of the devices that you can get, this is a Heltec. It is a portable device. This antenna I got separately, but it's on 900 megahertz. So this one has a on-screen display, and it tells you the voltage, the uptime, the current time. It'll tell you how much battery life you have. It'll give you the ID and the 4-digit or 4-character short name of your device. This one I call Hot Spicy Meshtastic, HSM. This device here is what's called a rack track, a T1000. It's made by SenseCap, and you can get any of these devices on Amazon or at a hamfest near you. There are a few coming up, by the way. But this one does not have an on-screen display. So it just has one button right there. It's about the size of a credit card and about the same width. It has a battery that's inside of it, and there's an LED right there that gives you kind of what you would call the heartbeat. Let you know that it's alive and kicking. Some of these devices on Meshtastic, there's some that have a built-in, they're kind of like a BlackBerry device. You can use it to send messages without the need of your smartphone. But for most of us out there, you're going to need your smartphone with an app that is available for free on your app store. So the intent of Meshtastic and Meshcore is off-the-grid communications. So if your cell network goes down, if your cell phone doesn't work, you can still use these devices to communicate if necessary. So you would just get online, you'd pull up the app for Meshtastic, and this is kind of an example of what the app would look like. And you get on one of the main channels, which is for this area, there's one called Long Fast. You can send out messages, like I'll just type out hello world. So as you can see, not much activity right now, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes, but you'll see I sent out the message. There's a little cloud with a check mark right next to it. That basically means that it has been received by another station and has been rebroadcast out. So I have mine set to 7 hops, which is about standard. So it doesn't tell you any information on it like Meshcore does. Meshcore, you can find out the path that your message went out to. And again, this is not an in-depth analysis. This is just a bare bones layman's term of how these networks basically work. But this device here, this is on Meshcore. I'll try and put it up there a little closer to the screen. You can see there is an on-screen display, LCD style. The Heltec, this is a Heltec as well, a Heltec device. The other Heltec I have on Tastic is LED rather. But this one, it gives me a little bit of information, how much battery I have left, and how many messages there are. It will actually store the messages from Meshcore so that when you pull it up on your phone, you can retrieve messages that you may not have seen since the last time you connected to it. So here again in East Tennessee, Meshcore has exploded in the last several weeks, basically since around the Christmas time frame. And what used to be maybe 2 or 3 repeaters is now over at least 3 dozen repeaters across the region. And there are stations from all the way south into South Carolina making contact with stations up in Kentucky, and they can use this area as a throughput between the 2 areas. So North and South Carolina can talk to Kentucky theoretically using Meshcore, all off the grid. But the one thing I'm finding out real quick about Meshcore as well as Meshtastic is that it's getting boring. All right, I have tried to initiate conversations. I have in fact put out conversations on both, and either no one responds or no one cares. The conversations that you do get are basically all the same. Can you hear me? I'm testing. And how many hops did this take to get from point A to point B? So that seems to be the majority of the conversations that are taking place on Meshcore right now. And it's, I mean, that's basically why a lot of people left Meshtastic to go to Core. People were leaving Meshtastic, not just for the lack of structure in that network, but for the fact that they were just getting the same messages over and over. Can you hear me? I'm up in an airplane and I'm testing. So, I mean, it's just basically that's all people have been doing, at least in this area. So I'm going to do an example here. I've not connected with this device in about 14, 16 hours now. By the way, nobody has responded to my hello world yet. When I sent it out on this device, and it said it was retransmitted. So chances are this device is what retransmitted it, or vice versa. So if there's no other Meshtastic nodes in the area, then it probably didn't get out very far. I do have a Meshcore repeater up on my tower. Originally it was Meshtastic, and it was basically used to get my Meshtastic signal out over a much larger area than just on these 2 devices. Now it's on Meshcore, and it's specifically set up as a repeater. So the device up there, just like in the ham radio world, it is up on a higher spot, which is at the top of my tower. It's only about 25 feet above the ground. and it's retransmitting out to other Meshcore repeaters. There are some out here in this general direction is Sharp's Ridge, where a lot of TV transmitters are. There's a couple of Meshcore repeaters that way. There's actually a guy with a Meshcore repeater in my neighborhood over here, just to the south and west of me. And then down to the south and east of me, there's a couple of other Meshcore repeaters. You can actually find them out on the app. The app will actually give you a map of these repeaters on the Meshcore system. And the Meshtastic app has actually started working on improving their map capabilities. Hopefully you can see this, but this is an example. That's my nodes right here, and these are the other Meshtastics that have been detected at some point while these devices have been turned on. Now on Meshcore, I'm going to do a test here. Again, I have not been connected for about 16 hours, give or take. So I'm going to connect to it through the app, which I call Hot Spicy Meshcore. I know it's original. Okay, so it's loading up everything right now. And there are some channels on here. There's the public channel. That's the one that everybody has by default. You can actually set up channels based on a hashtag similar to Twitter or X, where I set up one called hashtag HAMR for ham radio. There's another one for weather I have set up, hashtag WX, and then there's a couple of private channels. So right now, if you can see this here, it is actually loading up all the messages that are waiting for me on the public channel. And there's 120 messages. Let's see what messages are coming through Meshcore here in the East Tennessee area. Testing from Sweetwater, then a reply. Copied in Knoxville, 5 hops. Copied in Knoxville. Didn't say how many hops. I got you in Southeast Durham, which would be North Carolina. There has been a series of Meshcore repeaters that have been set up that basically get us out from here in East Tennessee out to North Carolina, Western North Carolina, the Triad area of North Carolina, down into the upstate of South Carolina. Someone else is under a water tower. Received in Jacksboro, Tennessee, that's north of me, 78.6 kilometers away. What, 50 miles, give or take? Got you at 3 hops to AB Tech Asheville. That's over the mountain in North Carolina. Good test. Another mileage check. Oh, 44.12 miles. Good afternoon. I just got an advert from 200 miles away. 10 hops to Mills River in North Carolina. Mount Mitchell has a repeater. Who hears me? Someone asks inquisitively. Test. Acknowledged. Someone tried to rickroll the chat, apparently. Testing from the base of Chilhowie Mountain in Blount County. That's south of here. Another test. Someone's test got down to South Carolina and as well got all the way up to Kentucky. Another test. Another test. 3 hops. 6 hops. 3 hops to South Carolina. 10 hops to Knoxville. No conversations about what kind of equipment. No conversations about the U.S. versus the Slovakian national team in hockey. No general conversation. No questions about the weather. Everybody loves to talk about the weather, you'd think. Now, don't get me wrong. This is interesting that we can take frequencies on 900 megahertz and put out devices that can communicate from South Carolina all the way into southeastern Kentucky and beyond. Here in East Tennessee, western North Carolina, southeast Kentucky, you have a lot of high spots. You have a lot of mountains, the Appalachians, the Cumberland Mountains, the Cumberland Plateau. You have a lot of high spots that can put out a signal over a very wide area. That's absolutely fascinating. What's kind of got me is that I've tried to engage some of these stations in conversation and they just don't reply back. And I find that to be rather boring, to be honest, because I mean, that's what we do on ham radio. We get on a repeater and we talk about news of the day. We can talk about sports. We can talk about any kind of conversation that we want to have. Sometimes we get technical. Sometimes we just talk about whatever the doctor said to us at our last colorectal exam. So there's a lot of different conversations that can be had on ham radio, and these kinds of conversations and more can be had on a non-amateur radio licensed system such as Meshtastic. And you don't have to be that technical, because a lot of these people probably aren't as technical. Now, there's a lot of ham operators that are using Meshtastic right now, and it's a good way to test out the system to get a feel for what it can and cannot do. It's still a very young technology, and it's growing and developing as more and more people get involved. So it's not that it's boring in the sense that you're seeing the same messages over and over. It's that there could be a lot more that you can do with it in the terms of trying to reach out and make friends and make acquaintances and have good conversation and build relationships. I'm hoping that some more of these types of conversations can be had. I've taken my Meshtastic devices and Meshcore down to various hamfests in the region, and it's almost the same thing, only just in a much smaller space. People saying, "Test, can you hear me?" And it's like, you're right there. Why don't you just wave at one another? For some of these hamfests, you can just wave at them and go and meet them. Get out and actually meet some of these people. Don't just use a hamfest. Go to a Shoney's restaurant or some other place, so that you can get together and compare technologies. What devices do you have? Where did you buy them? Did you put them together, or did they come prefabricated? And so with that, I'm just going to go ahead and end this. But it's, again, a great technology. It's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of good purposes on it. And I think some of the emergency services, not just in ham radio, but in like first responders, EOCs and such, I think they're also opening up to the mesh world for communications. And it can be very useful, as ham radio is, when all else fails. So hopefully we will see some more of this in the future, and Meshcore and Meshtastic will be a lot more than just, "Can you hear me now?" And with that, we'll say 7 threes, and we'll talk to you soon, either on the ham radio or on Meshcore, if anyone wants to talk.